Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, December the 6th. We do have a 10-game Monday slate. We got a relatively big slate today, guys. So as always, I'm going to try and go quick, go through each game, go game by game, talk through this slate, kind of give my early thoughts, what does stand out to me at first look on Sunday night. And then as we do go through each game, we'll kind of build out an early core, talk through 5 guys specifically that I do like for DraftKings and for Yahoo. Now, as always, this is my first looks at the slate. I haven't done any other research. I haven't really looked at projections or anything. This is just me opening up the slate for the first time. I do provide a lot more updated content on Patreon, and obviously with a sport like NBA, there's always going to be updates to give out because, there's always injury news you have to pay attention to. There's a ton of guys questionable just about every single day. There will be guys that, maybe even aren't on the injury report that randomly get ruled out. With NBA, the slate can change, with one guy can get ruled out and that can completely change the slate. So if you want more of my updated content, if you really enjoy these first look videos that I post on YouTube, you can check out my updated content over on Patreon. Link down below in the description. Get access to my full updated core plays that I usually post around an hour before lock. Get in our Discord chat where you can ask me questions anytime throughout the day, before lock, after lock, whatever it may be, lineup specific questions, 1v1s, 2v2s. I'm always in Discord answering questions for you guys, and I also do give out some of my favorite plays each day over on Prize Picks. Now, Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of this video. If you guys want to check out Prize Picks, you can sign up over there, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit. They will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code, and you can take a look at what Prize Picks has to offer there. More of a player prop based DFS site, so you're basically just picking the over or the under on players' projections. As you can see already, they have stuff posted already for Monday's NBA slate. They got some point projections, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made. You bet the over or the under on those. And they also have fantasy point projections as well. They usually will post those like early Monday morning. You make at least 2 picks, you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money over on Prize Picks. So if you have not signed up yet and you would like to sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit. They will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. And again, I do give out some of my favorite picks each day on Prize Picks for Patreon members. So if you want access to that, again, you can check out the Patreon link down below in the description. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Monday's 10-game slate. And we're going to start off with the Sixers and Hornets game. So this is one that is pretty appealing, especially on the Charlotte side, due to some mispriced guys that we're going to talk about in a second. On the Sixers side, not as much stands out, but I think, there's a couple guys you could definitely go to here. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the status of Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is questionable for this game. I think he has missed their last 2 games, I do believe, due to illness, or maybe it's just 1 game. I think it's just 1 game. He was out their last game against Atlanta. I think, if Tobias Harris remains out, Joel Embiid is definitely going to be a really good pay-up option. He had a pretty good game against Atlanta. I think that was Friday night when Tobias Harris was out. He played 36 minutes, had 55 DraftKings points, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. If Tobias Harris is out, we already know Ben Simmons is out. Like the offense is going to run through Joel Embiid. He's going to get a ton of usage, going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He's going to take a lot of shots. The matchup against Charlotte is about as good as it gets. Charlotte's really bad defensively. They've been playing at a really fast pace this year. I think if Tobias Harris is out again, Joel Embiid is a pretty good pay-up option. He would definitely be my favorite play from the Sixers. If Tobias Harris winds up playing, I think Embiid is still viable, but he would definitely be more of a just, lower owned play. I don't think he would project nearly as good if Tobias Harris winds up playing. The rest of the Sixers I'm not really interested in. Where they're all priced at, I don't think there's a ton that stands out, although I will say Georges Niang, 4,100. If Tobias Harris does sit, Georges Niang will probably start. Once again, he did start on Friday night, played 29 minutes, had 27 DK points. He's still relatively cheap at 4,100. He would for sure be in play for value in a scenario that Harris is out again. But I think that's it for the Sixers. Now on the Charlotte side, this is where we can find a lot of mispriced guys today. So obviously, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier are both out right now for COVID protocols. They were out on Sunday. This is a back-to-back for Charlotte. We saw kind of how they approach things with those guys out. You saw very heavy minutes for pretty much their key guys. Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, Kelly Oubre, PJ Washington, Cody Martin, Ish Smith, like all those guys played massive minutes. Miles Bridges wound up playing 40 minutes on Sunday night. Gordon Hayward played 33 minutes. I think Kelly Oubre played like 39 minutes. I mean, they ran a super tight rotation. They played basically all the guys I just mentioned, I'm pretty sure all played over 30 minutes. So we kind of know where the minutes are going to go. The Hornets all season have been running a tight rotation, and even with LaMelo and Rozier out, they still only played, I think they still only ran an 8-man rotation. So there's going to be a lot of minutes available. You could see Miles Bridges, Kelly Oubre, these guys play close to 40 minutes. You're probably going to see mid to high 30s for Gordon Hayward, mid to high 30s for PJ Washington, and then probably low 30s for Cody Martin and Ish Smith. So a lot to like here. I think Miles Bridges at 7,700 is definitely in play. I haven't really been on Miles Bridges this year. I haven't been really paying this price tag for him. But now that, LaMelo and Rozier are both out, like there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Miles Bridges. Should be able to get more shots up. Had 53 DK points on Sunday against Atlanta. Matchup against the Sixers, not great, I guess, but Miles Bridges is just going to play a ton of minutes, and he's going to be productive when he's on the court. So he is definitely in play for me. Same with Gordon Hayward at 7K. I think Gordon Hayward is probably my least favorite, just because his price point I think is probably where it should be, whereas I think some of these other guys are definitely a little bit too cheap. But Gordon Hayward's firmly in play. And then Kelly Oubre, 5,800. He's the first guy that I really like. He's too cheap for the minutes he's going to play. He started in place of in place of Rozier, and then they started Ish Smith at point guard. So basically, Ish Smith started for LaMelo, and then Kelly Oubre started for Terry Rozier. I'm assuming they're going to do that once again here. So if Kelly Oubre winds up starting again, he looks like a really good play. Again, he played a ton of minutes, 39 minutes. We know Kelly Oubre so far this year with Charlotte has been really productive when he does get minutes. He'll take a lot of shots. He's a relatively good shooter. He'll get some rebounds too. He'll get a few assists. He's somewhat scoring dependent, but he's going to take a lot of shots, so I don't think it really matters. I normally don't like to roster scoring dependent players, but when you're going to get a guy that's going to probably take 15, 20 shots and going to play 35 to 40 minutes, at 5,800, I have a lot of interest in Kelly Oubre. I think he looks like a really good play from the Charlotte team. We did see PJ Washington come off the bench again. I don't know why they started Nick Richards at center Sunday against Atlanta, but they did. PJ Washington still played 38 minutes, though. Even if they start Nick Richards at center again, I would still expect PJ Washington to play 34, 36 minutes. He's their main big right now with Mason Plumlee out. His minutes should be very secure. He should play probably mid to high 30s. 5,700, he feels priced about right for this slate. We do have 10 games. There's a lot of options, but I think PJ Washington is still firmly in play. And then the value guys, Cody Martin, Ish Smith. Both of them look like really good values. I don't know why they're priced. I don't know why they priced it where they are. I tweeted about this earlier. Like these guys on Sunday slate, I think Cody Martin was 4,900. Ish Smith was 4,800 on Sunday, and now for some reason they're 3,900 and 3,400. They're going to be really chalky, but it's they're two of the best value plays on the slate right now. So I really like both Cody Martin and Ish Smith. And on Yahoo, they're also very cheap over there. $14 for Ish Smith. Cody Martin minimum salary at shooting guard. Again, we saw big minutes for both of these guys. Ish Smith wound up starting, played 32 minutes, was productive, had 37 Draftkings points. So far this year with Charlotte, and just kind of throughout his career when he was on Washington, he was a relatively productive player when he was on the floor. Would do a little bit of everything, had 18 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists in those 32 minutes on Sunday. So 3,400. Ish Smith is a top value play today. Cody Martin, even though he came off the bench, he played 32 minutes, had 37 DK points. I think he's going to come off the bench again, but he should still play a lot of minutes just because they're so thin at guard right now with both LaMelo and Rozier out. And again, this Charlotte team, they run a tight rotation. Like I should have pulled it up. I'm going to pull it up real quick because I'm pretty sure they only played 8 guys on Sunday. So it was a high-scoring game. They did score 130 points, but yeah, they ran it. So they basically ran an 8-man rotation. They did play 9 guys, but James Bouknight only played 5 minutes. So I don't even know if we really want to look into it too much into that. You had 40 minutes for Bridges, 38 for Oubre, 33 for Hayward, 32 for Smith. Nick Richards, again, he started, but he only played 7 minutes, and then off the bench, Cody Martin played 32 minutes. PJ Washington played 37 minutes. Bouknight played 12 minutes, and Bouknight played 5 minutes, and JT Thor played 12 minutes. So there was basically, I think, 5 or 6 guys that played over 30 minutes. And I think those are the 6 guys we want to roster. Bridges, Hayward, Washington, Smith, Martin, Oubre. I think those are the guys that really stick out from Charlotte. The rest of these guys I have no interest in. It's a back-to-back, so could they run a deeper rotation today? Could they cut the minutes a little bit? It's possible. But so far this year, Charlotte's been running these guys heavy minutes every night, so I think they're going to do it once again here. So that's all I like for this game. I think we can move on to the next one, OKC and Detroit. So we got 2 pretty shitty teams going up against each other here, but this is a game I kind of like a little bit, especially on the OKC side, because we do have SGA out once again for the Thunder, and we do have Josh Giddey actually back for OKC. So with SGA out and with Giddey playing, I think Giddey himself at 6,800 does look like a pretty good play. We saw Giddey do really well in some of these games he played earlier this year when SGA was out. I'm pretty sure this Atlanta game, SGA was out 31 minutes for Giddey, 40 DraftKings points. I'm also sure that I think this Utah game, SGA was out then, 34 minutes and 38 DraftKings points for Giddey. Giddey's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. They're probably going to start him at point guard once again. I think last time SGA was out, they did start Giddey at point guard. He has triple-double upside. He nearly had a triple-double in those 2 games that SGA did not play in. Even at 6,800, I think Josh Giddey is a really good play here. He is for sure my favorite play from OKC. I think Lou Dort's viable as well. He should get a little boost without SGA. But outside of Giddey and Dort, I'm not going to roster any other Thunder on this slate. We had that scenario, I think it was Thursday, when they had so many guys out and they got the shit beat out of them by Memphis. Like Ty Jerome, Trey Mann were guys we looked to roster on Thursday. Now that Giddey's back, I don't think I'm really going to go to Ty Jerome or Trey Mann unless one of them wind up starting, which I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I'd assume they're just going to start Giddey at point guard, but we'll have to wait and see on that OKC lineup. But on the other side with Detroit, when you look at the pricing for the Pistons, I don't think there's any guys that stand out as core plays at their price tags, but there's definitely some viable tournament plays here. Like Cade Cunningham at 7,700 has upside. He's been a guy that's gotten in foul trouble a lot this year, but when he stays out of foul trouble, he can give you 40, 45 DK points. We've seen him put up a triple-double before this year. I think Cade's a fine tournament play. I think the same could be said for Jeremy Grant. Good matchup for Isaiah Stewart. He's shown some upside lately, 37, 36 DK points his last 2 games. He's played pretty big minutes as well. If we're going to get 33, 35 minutes from Isaiah Stewart like we had these last 2 games, I wouldn't mind going to him at 5,500. Does he continue to play this many minutes? I don't know. But in a really good matchup, I think Stewart's viable. These are guys you can take shots on in tournaments, but there's no standout plays from the Pistons. So next game, Washington and Indiana. So looking at the Wizards today, there actually is a decent amount I do like for Washington. Washington this year has been a team I really haven't rostered much of, especially when they're fully healthy. But this is a back-to-back for the Wizards, and I'm pretty sure we got word earlier that Spencer Dinwiddie is not expected to play, given that it is a back-to-back, and I don't think he's played on any back-to-backs this year. So I'm expecting Spencer Dinwiddie to be out, which does make Bradley Beal look a little bit more appealing at 8,800. I still don't think that Bradley Beal's like a top play today, just because it's a 10-game slate. We have a lot of other pay-up options, but when Spencer Dinwiddie is out, that does boost the upside and ceiling for Bradley Beal. He'll have the ball in his hands more, should get more usage, should take more shots. Matchup against the Pacers, I think, is pretty favorable. The Pacers, defensively this year have not been good at all. So Bradley Beal's firmly in play, and I think Kyle Kuzma without Dinwiddie also gets a boost. We've seen Kyle Kuzma have some good games this year when Dinwiddie's been out. Pretty sure this game at Dallas on the 27th, because that was a back-to-back, Dinwiddie was out that game. We saw 35 minutes and 40 DraftKings points for Kuzma. So, yeah, I think Beal and Kuzma are both pretty solid plays here, with Dinwiddie expected to be out on the back-to-back. Outside of the top 2 guys, though, I don't really like anything else from the Wizards. Harrell and Gafford, in my opinion, on a 10-game slate, I'm not really going to go to those guys. I'm not really going to go to KCP either. So I think we can move on to the next game, or the other side of this game. Now, I guess real quick, we can kind of talk about value. So Aaron Holiday has usually been the guy that starts in place of Dinwiddie. If Aaron Holiday starts, he's only 3,100. I think he's okay, but we probably are going to have better value. I would much rather play Ish Smith. I'd much rather play Cody Martin. But Aaron Holiday is at least playable if he starts for Dinwiddie. And if Raul Neto starts, he's 3,500, then you could go to him too. Did want to mention those 2 guys. But on the Pacers side, looking at Indiana here, I don't see too much that really stands out. The matchup against the Wizards is not great. Wizards have been playing way better defensively this year. They've been playing at a slower pace as well. Sabonis and Brogdon, both these guys have a lot of upside, but they're also priced where they should be. Karis LeVert's prices come up to 6,100, so I don't really like him that much. Miles Turner had a massive game against the Wizards earlier this season, 64 DraftKings points in 43 minutes. Does that happen again? Probably not, but the spot is pretty good. We've seen centers have massive games against the Wizards this season. I don't mind Miles Turner as a GPP dart throw. Chris Duarte should play a lot of minutes without TJ McConnell, without Justin Holiday. He's played 35 and 37 minutes the last 2 games. Probably plays 35, 36 minutes today. He's 4,700, feels priced about right. I think for the most part, Indiana, they're priced where they should be. Everyone on this team is priced correctly. There's no standout plays coming from the Pacers. So moving on to the next game, Memphis and Miami. Looking at Memphis here, for the most part, again, this is another team where pricing, I think, is pretty correct. Obviously, John Morant's still out, but these guys have been priced up to reflect that. Triple J, 7,200. Desmond Bane's almost 7K. Dylan Brooks is 6,400. Also, the matchup on the road against Miami is not really great. Miami, even without Jimmy and Bam, assuming Jimmy's still out, they still have a pretty solid defensive team. They still play at a really slow pace. I think Triple J is viable just because he's shown so much upside. He should be way more productive when Ja's off the floor, and we've kind of seen that lately. We've seen a big ceiling from Triple J. Had 45 DK points in 34 minutes against Toronto. Had a massive game in only 20 minutes against OKC. He went for 42 DK points that day. Triple J, when it comes to this guy, he's got to stay out of foul trouble. If he stays out of foul trouble, he can definitely put up big games. Is he likely to have a big game against this Miami team? Probably not, but Triple J is really talented. He's a good player. He's got upside. I think he's a fine tournament play. I think Dylan Brooks is a fine tournament play. But I don't love too much from Memphis given where everyone's priced at. Now on the Miami side, hard to really break down this team until we get word on Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler is currently questionable. He's been out for, I believe, like their last 3 or 4 games. If Jimmy winds up playing, I think Jimmy is a guy that we can definitely consider, assuming he's full go. Because with Bam out, we know that does benefit Jimmy. Jimmy gets more usage. He's more productive when Bam is off the floor. We've seen Jimmy have really good games in the past whenever Bam's been out. Really good matchup against Memphis. Memphis has been one of the worst defensive teams in the league this year. So I think Jimmy, if he plays at 9,400, is actually really appealing. Lowry and Hero, at their price points, I'm not going to consider them unless Jimmy's out. If Jimmy's out, then I think we can definitely go to Lowry and Hero. Both those guys will look like very solid options in the mid-range. And then Dwayne Dedmon, he's going to continue to start in place of Bam. Probably plays 25 to 30 minutes. So far the last 3 games without Bam, he has played 31, 23, and 24 minutes. But I know the Milwaukee game, that was a blowout. I don't think he really played at all in the fourth quarter. Probably would have played around 30 minutes that game had it stayed close. I think if today's game stays close, we get 30 minutes from Dwayne Dedmon. He's priced where he should be at 5K, but still playable just because we know Dwayne Dedmon can be relatively productive when he's on the floor. And then Duncan Robinson, he's looked better lately. He started to make shots, which is good to see. He's still a really scoring-dependent player. He's not a guy that I really like to roster, but he should have some opportunity to get some shots up for sure. He's probably going to take 7, 8, 9 threes. You just got to hope that he makes at least like 4 or 5 of them. If he shoots the ball well, he can definitely put up a solid game. Not a standout play by any means, but at least viable at 4,300. Really, though, I think if Jimmy plays, he's a good play at 9,400. If Jimmy's out, then I think Lowry and Hero look like really good options. But we can move on to the next game, Denver and Chicago. So Denver today, this team's very easy for me. It's just Jokic, and I think that's it. And I think Jokic on this slate definitely looks like a top pay-up option. I like him a lot at 12K, even at that high price point. It's fairly easy to get Jokic in because we already do have a decent amount of value, and we could even get more value open up as the day goes on. And then on Yahoo at $54, I think Jokic looks really good over there as well. I mean, we know what Jokic is going to do. He's going to be super, super productive when he's on the floor. He's going to play a ton of minutes if it's a close game. Chicago is a team you can kind of beat down low. Vooch has never really been a elite defender. He's not going to slow down Jokic by any means. Jokic has one of the highest floors in the league. He has a massive ceiling. I think, given the value we already have, if anytime I can pay up for Jokic, he's usually always someone I want to try and pay up for. So, yeah, I think Jokic is a really good pay up option, especially, if we don't get any Giannis. Like, Giannis is questionable right now. If Giannis gets ruled out, that's going to take a stud off the board that we could pay up for. Jokic is for sure a top play for me. Outside of Jokic, though, like Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, Monte Morris, I just never really ever play these guys, especially when Jokic is healthy. When Jokic is healthy, he's the focal point of this Denver offense, and he's the guy that I normally always target from Denver. I don't really go to anyone else. So we can talk about the Chicago side now. Looking at the Bulls, there's nothing that I really love from Chicago. When this team's fully healthy, we've been saying it all season, it's just tough to predict when you're going to get a big game from Vooch, LaVine, or DeRozan. Obviously, all these guys have upside, but they're all expensive. Like, Vooch is almost 10K. LaVine's 9,500, DeRozan's 9,300. Like, at these price tags, you need at least 50, if not close to 60 DraftKings points for them to be worth their price tags. And I just don't know if they, are likely to put up those type of games. Now, obviously, LaVine went for 53 last game. He could go for 50 today, but even if LaVine puts up 50 DraftKings points at 9,500, like, that's not going to win you a tournament. Like, he's not going to be someone that you have to have. Like, given where these guys are priced at, it's just really unlikely for them to be plays you have to have by the end of the night, just because they're so expensive and they eat into each other's usage. Really, the only time I ever play these Chicago guys is when one of the stars is out. Then Lonzo is kind of the same thing. Like, he's almost 8K. I'm not going to pay that price tag for Lonzo today. I think Chicago on DraftKings is really a full fade for me. So next game, we can go and talk about Cleveland and Milwaukee. So Cleveland today, there's no core options coming from Cleveland, but there are tournament plays I do like here just because we've seen so much upside from these Cleveland guys. Like, Jared Allen continues to play monster minutes on a nightly basis, continues to show a lot of upside. He's put up at least 40 DraftKings points in 7 straight games it is. Yes, 7 straight games of at least 41 DK points for Jared Allen. Like, he's been so consistent. He's shown a relatively high ceiling as well. 50 plus DK points in 2 of his last 5. Even at 8,400, I think Jared Allen's a viable, low-owned tournament play. I think Garrett Garland, another guy that's just shown a lot of upside, playing a ton of minutes. None of these guys are going to project well at their salaries, but they're also not going to get any ownership. So they're definitely players you can go to in tournaments. Evan Mobley, 6,600, I think is a fine play. He's going to get 36, 38 minutes if this game's close. He might see some Giannis. Like, if Giannis winds up playing, I do worry a bit. Anytime a player is going to have to guard Giannis, I always worry about foul trouble, and I think Mobley might be tasked with guarding Giannis here. So he could definitely, pick up some fouls, which is always a concern. But if he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to play like 36, 38 minutes. Same with Jared Allen. Same with Garland. So they're all viable tournament plays. Outside of those guys, though, I don't really like anything else on Cleveland. So on the other side with Milwaukee, Milwaukee's one of these teams that's just so hard to break down right now because we're going to need to know if Giannis is playing or not. Right now, Giannis is currently questionable. He's been out there last 2 games. My best guess is Giannis plays today. And if he does, obviously Drew and Middleton, given they were priced up for when Giannis was out, like, they're going to be out of play. Same with Bobby Portis. Really the only guy that would be in play for me if Giannis plays is Giannis. Like, if Giannis is in, I think he's a fine pay-up option. Giannis is very similar to Jokic in where, he's just got a really, really high floor. He's got a very high ceiling. Cleveland has been pretty solid defensively this year, but, they're not going to stop Giannis. I think he would be a really good pay-up option if he's in. If Giannis remains out, then we can start to look to guys like Drew and Middleton and Portis. But I will say that their price tags have also gotten pretty high. Like, Drew's 8,500, Middleton's 8K, Portis is 7,800. I don't think any of these 3 would be like must plays. Now, usually anytime Giannis is out, you always play Drew and Middleton. But given where they're priced at now, like, they're not guys I think you just have to roster. Do they still have a lot of upside? Absolutely. Could they still put up great games? Absolutely. I just don't think they're going to project nearly as well given where they're all priced at. Now, Bobby Portis, he had a massive game last game. He's got that kind of upside, but again, he's 7,800 now. I'm only going to play these guys if Giannis is out, or even consider these guys if Giannis is out. And I think that's it for Milwaukee. There's nothing else I really like here. So we can move on to the next game, talk about Atlanta and Minnesota. So Atlanta, they are on a back-to-back today. Definitely keep an eye on the injury report for Atlanta because Trae Young and Kevin Huerter were both questionable. Now, they both wound up playing, but given it's a back-to-back, it would not be surprising to see one of these guys get rested. One of these guys wound up being out. But just assuming that everyone's good to go for Atlanta, I think there's guys that are viable here. Now, there's no standout plays from Atlanta. Again, this is another team where the pricing feels pretty accurate. Like Trae's 10-3, Capella's 8,200, John Collins is 7,100. None of these guys are like, standing out as must plays or like core options of mine. But definitely, sprinkle them in tournaments. Trae Young obviously has a big ceiling. We've still seen a pretty low floor from Trae Young. He has shown, he can definitely disappoint at times. But that 55, 60-point ceiling is always on the table. This game against Minnesota, I think, should be played at a pretty fast pace. It should be relatively high scoring. I definitely have some interest in Trae in tournaments. I guess you could say the same for Capella. I think the matchup against Towns is pretty good for Capella. Capella is one of these guys that can really dominate on the glass. Towns has really never really been that great of a defender. Again, he's just a tournament play, but someone I would probably sprinkle in my player pool if I was playing a lot of lineups. And then, Kevin Huerter at 5K, I think is playable. He should continue to get big minutes every night with Bogdan and Hunter both out. He played a ton of minutes on Sunday, 34 minutes, had 38 DK points. He's been kind of up and down, but at 5K, he's going to play 30-plus minutes. It's a solid matchup, I think. I think Kevin Huerter is viable. But that's really it from Atlanta. Now, on the Minnesota side, this is another team that it's really tough to break down until we kind of get some injury updates here. So Karl-Anthony Towns is questionable. He did not play on Friday, which was pretty surprising. I thought Towns would wind up playing Friday, but he did not play Friday. I believe he did practice, though, so I'm expecting Towns to play, given he practiced on Sunday. But then we also have D'Angelo Russell questionable, so this is kind of a big one, too. I would say that if Towns is out and if Russell is out, that's just going to change the whole slate. Anthony Edwards would be a standout play if both those guys are out. Naz Reid would be one of the best value plays on the slate at 4,100 if Towns is out. And if Russell's out, you could definitely go to Malik Beasley as well at 4,400, who would be a really good play. If Towns and Russell both play, then I don't really see too much I like from Minnesota. Towns, I think, in tournaments could be fine at 9,900. He still wouldn't be like a priority spend up for me, but we know Towns has a lot of upside. I would say the matchup against Capella is not great for Towns, but still viable. It's just a wait and see here for Minnesota. Right now, I'm not really that interested in anyone, but that could obviously change if Towns or Russell gets ruled out. Then then that would change my thoughts on this team. I would definitely be looking to roster a good amount of Minnesota if those guys get ruled out. We'll just have to wait and see there. Hopefully we'll get an update sometime in the afternoon and we can talk more about this. When we stream, I always do stream an hour before lock. So if you guys want to tune in 6 Eastern, I will be live on my YouTube channel, breaking down the slate once again, answering any of your questions, and hopefully we'll have some updates on these guys that we can kind of discuss in the stream. But let's move on to the next game. Talk about the Spurs and the Suns. So the Spurs today, Dejounte Murray at 10,200, I have a little bit of interest in. This price tag is starting to creep up there, but Dejounte Murray has just been so good this season that, he is worth the 10K price point. He has shown consistent 50, 60-point upside. He's put up at least 50 DK points in 3 of their last 5 games, or 4 of their last 6 games, actually. He's put up at least 47 DK points in 6 straight games. He's been so consistent, shown triple-double upside. The matchup against Phoenix, I would say, is favorable. Phoenix has actually been playing at a really fast pace this year. Actually, both these teams have. So far this season, the Spurs, they are 5th in pace, and the Suns are 4th. So these are 2 top 5 teams in pace going up against each other. This should be a really fast-paced game. Should see a lot of possessions. Dejounte Murray did have a great game against Phoenix earlier this year. 59 DK points in 37 minutes. It would not be surprising to see him put up another game, another performance similar to that. So I think Dejounte Murray is someone that we can definitely go to in tournaments. I think Yahoo at 6K, going to play 30 to 35 minutes. His price tag, I think, is probably where it should be, if not a little bit too cheap still. When Yahoo does play 30, 35 minutes, he's normally averages around a fantasy point per minute. He probably is going to project for around 30 DK points. At 6K, a viable center option for sure. That's probably it, though, from San Antonio. I think Murray and Pirtle are the 2 guys I really like here. Now, on the Phoenix side, we know Phoenix is going to continue to remain without Devin Booker, so Chris Paul at 8,300 should continue to just get a ton of opportunity. I know he's had, back-to-back bad games without Booker. He really struggled against Detroit, just didn't do that well, only 35 DK points. And in the game against Golden State, they got blown out. Chris Paul only played 32 minutes, had just 27 DK points. But we know the upside Chris Paul has. We saw it in that game against the Warriors, a week ago when after Booker got hurt, Chris Paul played 39 minutes and went for 50 DK points. He can definitely give you a 50, 60-point game. He's got triple-double upside still. We know he's going to get a ton of assists. He's pretty likely to get you a double-double, a points assist double-double. He can get some rebounds as well. He can always pick up a lot of steals. I like the matchup against the Spurs. I like that this is going to be a fast-paced game. I think Chris Paul at 8,300 is for sure in play, with Devin Booker out again. I think DeAndre Ayton gets a bump as well. We've seen DeAndre Ayton have really good games lately. 36 DK points against Golden State, but again, he also didn't play a ton in the 4th quarter. I think he also saw his minutes limited a little bit because of that blowout. Probably would have played a little bit more had the game stayed close. He did have a great game against San Antonio earlier this season for what it's worth. 45 DK points in 32 minutes for Ayton at 7,400. I think he's viable. And that's probably it from Phoenix. Cam Johnson's going to come off the bench, probably play around 30 minutes. He feels priced about right for a 10-game slate. I think $4,400 Cam Johnson on a 10-game slate is probably not going to be something I, run to roster, but at least playable if you're really, if you're making a lot of lineups. But I think that's it for this game. We can go ahead talk about the last 2 late games of the night. So we'll start off with Orlando and Golden State. So on Orlando, this is a worry. It's a worrisome spot for Orlando. It's definitely a risky spot just because this is a scenario where they could get blown out. They could get the crap beat out of them. Obviously, Golden State has been one of the best teams in the league this year. They've been blowing a ton of teams out. They play really well at home. I don't know what the spread is in this game, but I'd assume it's double digits. Let's see. Yeah, Golden State is favored by 14.5. So if you're rostering any Magic on this slate, just know that there is a lot of blowout risk here. If you are playing someone on the Magic, maybe you play someone on the Golden State side and just hope the game stays close so that both players get their full minutes. Cole Anthony at 8K, I think, has upside here. Golden State's been really good defensively this year, but they also do play pretty fast. This is a big-time pace-up spot for the Magic. But at 8K, Cole Anthony feels priced about right. Same with Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba. There's just nothing that I really love from Orlando. Plus, when you factor in the major blowout risk, I just don't think I'm going to roster any Magic on this slate. And then on the Golden State side, obviously there's blowout risk here. We could definitely see Steph Curry only play 3 quarters. Curry could go for 60 Draftkings points in 3 quarters. We've seen him do it before. The matchup's pretty good. Orlando, they're not going to have anyone to slow down Steph Curry here. It's just that on this slate at 11,700, Curry's not really going to project out as a top option. I would much rather play Jokic. I would much rather play Giannis if he's in. Probably would rather go to some other guys, too, that we've already talked about. You got Paul George. You got CJ McCollum playing without Dame. You got Dejounte Murray. There's just a lot of pay-up options. I don't think Curry really stands out. I think Draymond Green in tournaments is fine. he is coming off a pretty big game, or at least against Phoenix on Friday night. He had a massive game, 51 DK points in 30 minutes. You know, typical Draymond game, 9 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, 3 blocks, 6 steals. Like that's just what Draymond does. He does a little bit of everything, has upside. It's just that on this slate, I don't think Draymond really stands out, and that's probably it for Golden State. So last game of the night, the Clippers and the Blazers. So looking at the Clippers here, you know, Paul George, 10,600, I think is firmly in play on this slate. We know what Paul George is going to do on a nightly basis. We know he's going to play big minutes. You know, we haven't really seen much of a ceiling lately from Paul George. He has definitely been underperforming. You look at his game log, you know, out of his last 10 games, or actually 9 games, I mean, it's 9 straight games now with less than 50 DraftKings points from PG. Obviously, if we're paying 10,600 for Paul George, we want 55, 60 DK points, and it's now been, you know, 9 games in a row where he's put up less than 50. So he hasn't really been justifying this price tag, but we still know the upside's there for Paul George. The matchup against Portland is pretty favorable. I think Paul George is for sure in play on the slate. I'm not going to go to any other Clippers, I don't think, though. You know, given where everyone's priced at, no other guys stand out from the Clippers. I think it's just Paul George for me, and that's probably it. And then on the Portland side, we know Dame's going to remain out, so, you know, CJ McCollum at 9K, even though his price tag is starting to slowly creep up, I still think CJ McCollum is a really good play here. We know he's going to play a ton of minutes if the game's close. You know, even in a blowout against Boston last game, he still played 35 minutes. Like, he was on pace to play about 40 minutes had that been a close game. I think if tonight's game's close against the Clippers, we probably get 38, 40 minutes from CJ McCollum. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He's going to take a ton of shots. He's got upside for sure. He's priced where he should be at 9K, but I still think CJ McCollum is a really good play today. I think Nurkic is viable as well. I do like this matchup a lot for Nurkic. You know, the Clippers never really been great defensively against big men. The only issue I have with Nurkic is just that, you know, his minutes are not what you want them to be. I mean, last game he only played 20 minutes. The game before that, only 23. I know some of the, like, those 2 games were both blowouts, but even if the games had stayed close, like, I still don't think Nurkic would have played, you know, many more minutes. So his minutes are not, the minute ceiling, I don't know how high it is for Nurkic. Like, we saw him play 30 minutes, I think, once against Sacramento. He was playing really well that game. Ever since then, like, he's just been, like, in the low to mid-20s. If Nurkic is only going to play, like, low to mid-20s minutes, it's really hard to pay 7,100 for him. But, again, I think there are going to be nights where Nurkic just comes out and plays really well, and then, you know, they're forced to give him minutes. They will play him 30, 32 minutes. If he gets 30 minutes, he's going to probably do really well. That's just a big risk that, you know, we haven't really seen the consistent minutes be there for Nurkic, which makes him, you know, a riskier option. But there's obviously still upside from Nurkic. We've seen that, you know, already this year. And then Dennis Smith Jr. at 5,300, I do like quite a bit. You know, he also saw a big price bump up, but I think he's still a pretty good play. He's, you know, pretty affordable on DK. Again, he's 5,300, but I still think he's a really, you know, strong option. And then on Yahoo, he looks really good on Yahoo. He's only $13 over there. He stands out as one of the better values on Yahoo, in my opinion. We saw him start in place of Anthony Simons on, what day was that? Saturday? Yeah, Saturday against Boston. They did start Dennis Smith Jr. alongside CJ McCollum. And Dennis Smith Jr. played 37 minutes. He was pretty productive as well, had 21 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. You know, so far this season with Portland, he hasn't really played a ton, but when he's been on the floor, he has been relatively productive. You know, he got 19 minutes against the Spurs, put up 20 DK points, got 17 minutes against Detroit, put up 24 DK points. I think they are going to stagger him and CJ McCollum so that, you know, one of those guys is on the floor at all times, which basically means that Dennis Smith Jr. will get to play some without CJ McCollum. He should be really productive in those minutes. I know CJ McCollum did go to the locker room last game, so maybe Dennis Smith Jr. got a little bit of, you know, better. He got some better minutes or more productive minutes when McCollum was off the floor. But if they're going to play Dennis Smith Jr. this much while Anthony Simons is out, I think even at 5,300, like, he's still in play. He's going to probably be, I would say, around a fantasy point per minute player, and he's probably going to play mid to high 30s minutes. 5,300, I definitely like Dennis Smith Jr. once again. I think he's a pretty good option. I think he stands out from this Blazers team. And then Norman Powell at 5K, more of a tournament play, but I think his upside is definitely higher with Dame off the floor. You know, he should get some more shots, should have more opportunity to produce. We haven't really seen much from Norman Powell this year, but I think the upside, the opportunity should be there without Dame, so he's viable at 5K. That really is it, though, from Portland. I think we kind of talked about all the guys that I have interest in from this team. So that's it for this 10-game Monday slate, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, please do hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. Again, if you would like, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH. When you do sign up, they will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100, and you can take a look and what PrizePicks has to offer. You can take a look at their board for Monday night's NBA games, make some picks for yourself. They also have other sports. They have college basketball. They have they have stuff posted for Monday Night Football, Patriots and Bills. So if you want to get some stuff, some picks down for that, you can also take a look at their projections for that game too. You can mix and match sports. You can, win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. Sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.